conversations about that international perspective and international collaboration of smart cities. I don't want to take up too much more time from this panel, so I'm going to bring Brian Dillard up right now. Brian is the Chief Innovation. He's just saying hi really quickly to his boss there, I think. So, but Brian, thanks so much for moderating this panel, and why don't you take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the Smart City Administrator, and as of about 3 months ago, I am also the Interim Chief Innovation Officer. That's going to be on Thursday, so keep your fingers crossed. So I'm going to be bringing on stage 3 of the folks that we work very closely with at the city. One of them happens to be a member of my team, Candelaria Mendoza. She's the Smart City Coordinator for the City of San Antonio. Y'all can give her a hand. Alberto, he's the co-founder and Chief of Operations for Cityflag. And then we have Jibram Shermohammad. He's the Vice President of Development and Corporate Counsel for Ike Smart City. So we're going to be discussing community-driven tech solutions. How does that fit into play? And that's a very important conversation for us in San Antonio. We've had smart city projects, but we're just now kind of in the beginning stages of our smart city program. So my team and I make up the smart city team. We have a smart city administrator, 2 coordinators, and a specialist. And we've been tasked to develop this strategy as we move forward. Throughout that Smart SA program, we're working with our partners. And one of those partners is CPS Energy. So thank you to CPS Energy and to Zipram for making this happen. But so we make up partnership with CPS Energy, SAWS, SARA, which is our river authority, and VIA, our Metropolitan Transit Authority. It's a very powerful partnership among quite a few municipal agencies, and we all work together to move forward in this space. So that conversation right now for the past 4 months that we've had a team has been around community engagement. How do we make sure that the technologies that we're implementing revolve around what the community has dictated to us? We don't want to implement shiny technology just because we think it's cool. We want to make sure it's meeting the needs and wants of our community members. So, kind of get started here. And Candelaria, I'm going to go with you first because I'm going to pick on you. So how has the City of San Antonio taken tangible steps forward on Smart City 3.0? Is everybody familiar with Smart City 1.0, 2.0, 3.0? Maybe you can go into that a little bit.
So yeah, just to give a little bit of a disclaimer, first of all, I've appreciated all the conversations that have been happening all day today because I think they align perfectly with what the Office of Innovation is doing through the Smart Cities team. So I appreciate hearing collaboration, partnership, eliminating silos, community engagement, because that's really at the core of what we're doing and what we're going to continue to do. The disclaimer is that the Smart Cities Office has been in existence for about 4 months in the City of San Antonio. And this is the benefit of having my boss as a moderator for the panel. But yeah, we have a great team. There's an amazing framework. As Brian mentioned, all of the partners are also at the table, and I think we have that initial framework that's going to get us to move forward and hopefully be a leader in smart cities because like Ron, our mayor, just mentioned, the demographics of San Antonio really reflect the future of this country. So if we can improve on and elevate the quality of life for everybody here, I think we can definitely be a city and a model that other people can learn from and move forward with and hopefully also succeed. But yeah, as Brian mentioned, Smart Cities 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. So Smart Cities 1.0, I think that was kind of just taking the opportunity of technology being created by the private sector, bringing it to cities. Maybe you got it for free, maybe there was a little bit of money, and things just kind of happened. I don't know if scooters can kind of a little bit be on there. It's a little disruptive. It kind of comes. It's in a pilot phase. You get to try it, and then of course we're learning and building policy and process around it. 2.0 is kind of the government taking a little bit more like, well, let's control that a little bit, and working with the vendors to say, hey, this is what we want, putting it out as a proposal, vendors coming in saying, okay, we have what you want, let's implement and see what happens. So So Smart Cities 3.0, where we want to go, is really co-creation. So we really want to, at the core of it, have community engagement, have that feedback from the community. What are the challenges that they're experiencing every day? Is it traffic? Is it flooding? Is it drainage? Is it lighting? You know, where is it that their core pain points are during the day here in San Antonio and throughout the city? Getting that feedback, finding ways to get that feedback, and have it be a loop. That is a continuous loop. It's not just a one-time, here's a survey, now you've told us everything, we never have to come back to it again, we know exactly what we need, we're going to keep doing it. No, we want to make sure that there's a continuous loop of feedback so that it can inform our decision-making throughout the city. So definitely co-creation with vendors. I think we're disrupting a little bit. Just in the 4 months, I could see some of the feedback of having a bigger challenge being given to vendors and say, how do we get there? So if mobility is our challenge, how are you, vendor, going to help us get to having more forms of transportation? And then, of course, with our city partners, and how do we leverage our resources? How do we avoid those silos? How do we avoid doing duplicate efforts? So that's definitely the model that we're trying to do is Smart Cities 3.0.
Excellent, excellent. And I think one of the things you hit on was that constant community engagement. I think one of the companies that's done that very well is Cityflag with the 311 app. And if you want to go into the 311 app and kind of explain, I'm sure there's quite a few folks in here that understand how it works, but I want you to kind of go a little deeper and speak on participation rates and how you got the community to actually utilize the technology. There's a lot of times we can put technology out there and say, yeah, we got a solution, but we don't find ways to get the community to actually utilize it. So I know you guys are doing that really well over at Cityflag. You want to speak on that?
Thanks, Ryan. Yes, well, thanks for everybody. Thanks to the City of San Antonio. Our company is called Cityflag, and our goal is to improve communication between people and government. And so what we did is we blended human-centered design, creativity, and data to come up with a easy-to-use tool for people to report 311 issues to the city of San Antonio. Now, I'm guessing everybody's familiar with 311 services. So what we did is we created this platform. This is the first social platform for 311 services. And in 45 seconds, you can create a report and send it to the city. And the way it works is you select a category and then you answer a couple of very simple questions that help the city narrow down the name of the category that is to be reported. Then you select, you geolocate the report, you move forward, answer another couple questions, and then you report it. And then you get a due date. So that's, what you were saying, Candelaria, is you get the feedback loop from the city, right? Before you were used to just reporting, and then you kind of never knew what happened to the report. So now with this app, you get a due date when the city is going to fix that issue. And usually what happens is it gets resolved much faster than the actual due date that you get. And so we also added a very fun layer of gamification to the app. And this is sort of how we are trying to reach out to a larger demographic, to a larger segments of the population so that they can also participate. And in the 5 months that we've been live in the city of San Antonio, we have over 11,000 users. More than 10,000 requests for service have been opened. About 90% of those reports have been successfully closed. And we've been getting a very positive feedback from the citizens. They're actually surprised when the city responds to their issue very fast. And what they do is they take pictures of before and after of the report, and then they share it on social media. And so that's some of the things that we're doing right now with the 311 SA app.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a great service for our citizens. And speaking on service for citizens, Jibram, I'll jump to you next. I want you to speak on some of the social benefits of a digital kiosk program. When we launched our digital kiosk program last year, and we've been kind of installing them throughout the past year. We might have seen some around downtown. If you haven't, go find one. But they're really cool. Take a selfie of them. It's a really cool program, but a lot of our constituents ask us, what's this? You said you're going to do just shiny technology that didn't serve a purpose. I want you to kind of dive into the social benefits of the digital kiosk program and how you see that.
Sure. First, thanks for having me. So IKE is an acronym that stands for the Interactive Kiosk Experience. If you haven't seen them outside, imagine an 8-foot iPhone that stands on the sidewalk, and when you walk up to it, it has a touchscreen on either side. It's about 65 inches, and you can touch it, and it opens up like the dashboard on your phone. It has a number of applications that help you do several things, from discovering what there is to do in the city to figuring out how to get there through different mobility information. And then it delivers, or helps the city deliver, a number of social services by providing information such as where to find shelters, where to find addiction recovery resources, financial aid resources, and also helps you find jobs. And so to your point, kind of the objective of IKE is to serve both spectrums of the population. People seeking sushi and people seeking shelter, right? So if you are going for a place to eat, what it's going to do is show you where you can go eat based on proximity. So nobody can pay us to be elevated. Instead, it's just about elevating or showing first the folks that are most immediately near the IKE location. And each IKE is location aware, so each IKE is going to present to you different list of options that are available to you. And so the goal is really to democratize, your access to information with the lowercase d. So basically, you're presenting on the sidewalk to people that don't necessarily have cell phones, or people that are traveling and don't have a cell phone that's connected to an American data plan, or somebody that may not have access to this information for some other reason, and presenting it to them from a credible location. So this is the city, on the city sidewalk, presenting you this information versus going to some third-party website, and you don't know what those third-party websites' interests are. Is it a group that's paying to be elevated? Is it some other organization that's driving you to some specific business? And so really the goal of IKE was to help local businesses get discovered, but also to help the city deliver services, or at least deliver information about services to a segment of the population that the city may not have had a ton of access to in the first place. I also want to put in a quick plug for the office that Brian is currently leading. So we're under deployment in a series of cities across the U.S. And what we're finding is that when you're bringing, and I'm sure anybody involved here in smart cities technologies has realized this, when you're bringing smart cities technologies to cities, it's kind of a, depending on the department you're put into, it's kind of a round peg in a square hole. Because what we're doing is bringing new types of technologies and services to cities, there isn't always a natural partner at the city that can usher you through the various departments you have to navigate through when you're deploying technology. Whereas here, there's kind of a natural house for this type of disruptive technology that you guys are leading. And what it helps us do is bring a new technology to the city and then work with the experts at the city to figure out what departments we need to go through. You have, TCI, you have Public Works, you have CPS, you have VIA, and to a non-educated or non-experienced observer, it's alphabet soup. So having Brian or somebody within Brian's group that's helping us navigate these departments, I think does a lot to bring these technologies to bear more quickly and help us really address the needs of citizens versus bringing a shiny object to citizens. And I think it helps create that virtuous cycle you were talking about earlier, because part of IKE is helping citizens communicate with cities. We have a survey option. We also have two-way communication in IKE. And as a result, we're able to then double down on the city's initiative to gather feedback as they're delivering new services.
Excellent. Yeah, and I love that you went into kind of the municipal relationship, the relationship you have to build with the municipality as opposed to working with an organization that may run a downtown business district or something. Sure. There's a lot of different steps here. We'll actually kind of get into procurement a little bit later. I'm excited about that. Interesting. So Candelaria, Jibram mentioned kind of the ability to access information. I want to talk to you about that, because when I saw your resume as we were hired 4 months ago, Candelaria is it a master's in librarianship or a bachelor's?
It's a master's.
Yeah, I didn't know there was such thing.
Master in library science.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. And so I wondered, and I'll admit when I don't know something, I was like, why do they bring a librarian on to the Office of Innovation? Like, how does that relate? So I want you to kind of, explain to us how a library fits in, how a public library system fits into a smart cities program.
Sure. At the core of it, I think the brilliance is that we've gotten to this place in Smart Cities 3.0. And I think three of the focus areas that we're really trying to target are access to services, what we're going to be talking about, mobility, and sustainability. And I think you guys have heard a little bit of everything today. been something that libraries have done for many, many, many years. We at the San Antonio, or city of San Antonio, have 30 locations. So I think Cheryl mentioned our central library, and then we have our Briscoe Museum, and then we have 28 branches. And that provides access to service. So for those that don't have access to a computer, internet, printing, faxing, they can go to the library and receive all their services. And actually, if you think about it, I don't know how long it's been, you guys need to go visit a library. I know Austin's had a shout out for their new library. The Central Library also has 3D printers you can go check out, music lab you can go check out. The event spaces around there are always being used. We have a Latino Collection and Resource Center. So it's an amazing place, a lot of great architecture and art. So there's my shout out for the Central Library as well. But I mean, at the core of it, we've always been meeting community needs. And I've had the privilege to work there at the library for 4 years and lead a lot of group projects. And you think, you know, library is outdated. We actually spend quite a bit of time, a significant amount of time, doing professional development, research, looking at data, looking at census, trying to figure out how we can improve people's lives, how we can move the needles. We do a lot of training. And again, the resources as far as librarians go, they're going to find the resources that you need when you go to the library. So at the core of that is that the libraries have been doing that for a very long time. So when this position came up with the Office of Innovation, I felt like that job was for me. I get to go do what I do at the library and scale it to do it even across the city, and awesome if some of the things that we get to do get modeled and done in other cities. But yeah, I mean, the city is also involved with the Digital Inclusion Alliance. It was something that also was a core at the library. We got Digital Inclusion Fellows that were sponsored by Google a few years back. And that initiated a summit, which then created the alliance, because through that summit we developed a lot of partnerships and conversations. And now we have this lovely alliance that's going to help us define what digital inclusion looks like here in the city of San Antonio, and we get to be a part of that as the city of San Antonio.
Excellent. We had a conversation recently to think about. So among the partnership is a conversation of data ownership. Who's collecting the data? Who retains it? How do you share that access? And I think one of the conversations that came up is there's some opportunities in other cities that they're taking advantage of housing data within the library, them taking that ownership on. Can you speak on that a little bit? I know this is a curveball for you, so.
No, sure. I mean, it's something that it's at its infancy of, you know, the library is a trusted institution. It's a public institution, so everybody is obviously welcome. And we provide access to everyone. And at the core, libraries have always been trying to be hubs of different information, services. So we dab into workforce development, we dab into training, digital literacy, obviously at the core early literacy, education. So there's some research and momentum building behind libraries being the potential hubs of information. So if it's a trusted institution, and of course they have the professional staff to back it up, because of course at the end of it, librarians are research experts. So why not allow somebody that does that already really, really well to take in that data, assess it, and take it raw, assess it, and create actual sets of data that other people can use to make informed decisions. So again, it's something that's very the beginning in conversations. There's a few articles out, and it's something that the Library Association is taking on as something to research, but it's something that we're definitely going to keep an ear out for and have conversations locally about.
So if you don't have the budget for a chief data officer, look to your local library. You got an applause there. Oh, there you go. So that we're talking about access to data now. You guys have done, well, I'll let you speak to this. I want you to talk to us about the ability for a constituency to be able to access city data. And I think you guys do that well. You pretty much have a dashboard and a portal with city data. Can you talk to me about the benefit of that to the city, and also kind of maybe an obstacle?
Sure. So on the mobile app, there's actually like an interactive map, right? So one of the benefits that you get as a citizen is that data visualization screen platform that allows you to interact with data that is crowdsourced, generated from all the citizens. So you can open your app and go to the digital map, and then you can zoom in, zoom out, scroll through the city, sort of explore your neighborhood. You have a filter, so you can filter the data. So for example, you can select graffiti, and then you can select open or close, and then see what graffiti reports are open, near your home or near your work. And so that's accessible for everyone. So everyone can potentially see, tens of thousands of reports, and then filter them and learn what are the most common issues in particular areas of the city. So that's, data sort of inclusion, right? So I think that right now we've been successfully in capture or in kind of having platform all of the early adopters in the city, right? We believe that with the 11,000 users that we have, most of these users, citizens, are people who kind of use technology in their area, right? So now they've benefited from this service. Now, how do we bring the rest of the citizens to sort of join and can get the benefits of this service? So that's going to be working right now. How do we become more inclusive? How do we reach out to these segments of the community? And we are doing a lot of offline events to sort of because what we've found out is a lot of people don't even know what 311 services are. So when we tell them, have you ever used a 311? Have you ever created a 311 report? They don't even know what is that. So first we have to sort of get the word out, educate them about what 311 services are, and then teach them how to use them, so the platform. And so we've been partnering with universities, we've been going to a lot of events, getting close to the community, because I think that that's also a big part of community engagement. And so as for the city, we're collaborating and working with different departments, so we have identified that, for example, on the east side of the city, there's a big issue with stray dogs, right? So by visualizing the data and sort of filtering through all the reports, we're able to locate those hotspots and identify what are the most pressing issues. Not only that, you kind of get from studies that just bring data collected from studies, but actually crowdsourced data that's coming from the community. So I think that's also sort of the highest value because it's real data that is personalized and that affects real citizens.
Excellent. Yeah, so it's a benefit to the city from my perspective because of the transparency item. So city government often, can be villainized or categorized as like, we got some conspiracy stuff going on behind closed doors. But this allows us to prove that, hey, we want you to have access to this data. We don't want to have to, report back to you all the time. We want you to be able to go out there and grab it and pull it in yourself. This allows us to have that transparency and that access. And also, this is really good for us as we start to build our smart city program, and when we talk about identifying the challenges and needs, we're just doing that right there.
Right.
Honestly, this is something that's beneficial to us as a city department. We can go in there and say, hey, our community directly reported through this app that these are the issues that they're dealing with. Now let's plug that into the smart city program because it's what's been dictated by the community members themselves. So it's great. I love it. Jibram, I want to talk to you about procurement. And how many of you enjoy procurement? So one of the things that we did early on, it was our third month on, we conducted a vendor summit. So this was a non-traditional RFI. We had an in-person summit at the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center here in San Antonio. We invited about 4,400 vendors off of our list. Obviously, we didn't have space or budget for 4,400. So we did have space for 250. We had 173 show up and participate in this all-day vendor summit. What we did for those that weren't able to show up, and I'm going to give you this web address, sanantonio.gov/smartsa. So that's where we're housing the video recordings from that day, the agenda, all of the presentations, and the RFI. I mean, that's the RFI in itself. We'll be closing responses on March 1st. So we're looking for solutions. And the reason we did this vendor summit is to make sure that vendors were providing responses that were a custom approach to our community's issues. And I'll say that 10 more times, I'm sure, within the next 5 minutes. But we really wanted them to understand, like, we're telling you what our community has told us. This isn't just some shiny project that we want to happen. This is, really valid down to a grassroots level. So, Jibram, that was a long intro to this question, but how important is it to have kind of a community-centric approach when it comes to procurement responses, whether that be the RFI or RFP?
Extremely. I would say that the biggest frustration that, as a vendor that we face with cities in the contracting process is that a traditional procurement process is one way. It's effectively a black hole in which you submit information that you think the city is seeking, or you submit solutions that you think provide an answer to the problems the city is facing. Whereas things like you're proposing here that you've done, and there are several cities, a few cities around the U.S. that have done this that I've experienced, is that it allows for a two-way communication for us to learn the pain points that a city has, and then for us to customize a response that helps solve the solution, or helps to bring the solution that the city is seeking. And also, I think to the kind of reverse, it helps the city see that there are a few solutions that we have that may fit a problem. So it's not a solution seeking a problem, which everybody agrees is not the right way to approach things, but it does help the city learn about the technologies that are available that they may not have otherwise known were available to them. Like that there is a gamified, crowdsourced 311 application available to cities, or that it has been applied in large cities in the U.S. and has done well, or across the world and has done well. Similarly, an 8-foot iPhone doesn't seem like it naturally belongs on your sidewalks. So you realize that it provides a service that citizens navigating the city are seeking. Like, for example, some of the largest health institutions in the United States submitted to us their biggest concerns. And it's not that, my uncle wasn't treated or my grandmother was harmed in the hospital. It's that I couldn't find my way around, right? And so the simplest problems have yet to find very full solutions. And a big kiosk that's a wayfinding solution does that. And so I think having kind of a two-way communication system when you're seeking new contracts and new solutions, I think is a great first step in getting really customized solutions for your city.
Excellent. Alberto, I don't know if you had anything to add on this. No, you're good.
To the RFP process?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there should definitely be a faster way to sort out through projects and get to know them. In our experience, since we were the first startup, we kind of had to got a contract with the city. It was particularly painful and long process.
It's painful for us as well.
Yes. And so I agree with your comments about having a two-way communication, which is in which the procurement process can be more dynamic, more agile, having a faster feedback loop, so that you can actually get a better proposal, more tailored to the city needs.
Actually, I can do one thing to that point. I think one thing some cities have done, and I think cities could really benefit from, is taking advantage of other cities and business improvement districts or whatever the type of organization that has done a full vetted procurement process that you may want to piggyback, adopt, whatever your terminology is for it. If that type of process doesn't exist in the city, I think all cities are doing themselves a disservice because they're subjecting themselves to a cumbersome process when another interested entity with the same type of interest that you have has already done it, and you have the opportunity to reach in and get their data and maybe even adopt their selection.
Gotcha. Excellent. Yeah, that's good advice. So this one's for all of you. We'll start off with you, Candelaria. What's the biggest obstacle when it comes to ensuring tech solutions are community-driven, and how can we overcome that obstacle as we move forward?
So I think our obstacle for having our solutions is that, I think a common thing just in the conversations today and even in the other panels is a smart city. What is a smart city? And how do we get people, everyday people that have to do jobs that are going back and forth to work, to understand how smart city technology impacts them and what the benefit to them is, and how do we get them feedback to ensure that what we're doing is going on the right path. So I think that's going to be the challenge of defining what smart city is to us and sharing that message throughout the community. And again, I think because there's differences of opinion, like e-scooters, some people love them, some people hate them, and then finding a compromise and working with something in the middle. And I think that's going to be not everything that we do, but some of the things that we're going to do is going to be disruptive, is going to be different. I mean, I think seeing 311 as an example of, it wasn't a replacement to our normal 311 service, it was an addition to our normal 311 service, which is, I think, something that we always need to kind of keep in mind of finding ways to complement what we're doing and not necessarily trying to find ways to just completely replace things that we're doing. So I think that's going to be kind of the challenge of ensuring that there's models for everyone, and there's obviously going to be different ways that different people take in information. So having that at the forefront and ensuring that we're not leaving anybody behind by moving too fast.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. I think that citizens needs to be at the center of the design of the tools, right? Like you said, you were mentioning the shiny objects, but not just because something is cool and it might be working for some of the more advanced early adopters users. That's going to be like the right solution for everyone. I think that the biggest obstacle is precisely that. How do we include the end user, the citizens, in the development process, right? Sort of methodologies like design thinking, in which you have a feedback loop and you test, and then you get the feedback, and and also a multidisciplinary approach, not just a technified sort of top-down solution to everyone in the city, but just bringing feedback from different stakeholders and different type of people, demographic. I think that's key to having easy to use, scalable solutions that give more access to citizens to their city services.
So I know we're running out of time. I got you guys a minute 50 over. Just to be short, I would say that a willingness to engage in non-traditional models. The model we provide is media-based, and instead of the city paying for the kiosk actually generates revenue for the city. And I think it's important to understand that our traditional structures, whether it's code, whether it's regulatory issues, whatever the traditional kind of mechanisms of regulations exist in the city, may not be equipped to kind of usher in the new types of technologies that we want for a city. Now, that doesn't mean to throw all regulations out the window, but instead have a willingness to assess what regulations currently exist and may impede growth. And I think that's central to continuing to deploy smart cities technologies and really deploy new solutions to old problems. So I think a willingness to take a creative approach to the model that includes assessing what your regulatory scheme permits.
Excellent. I love it. Y'all did great. From my perspective. I don't know if y'all think they did. Yeah, that's